Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Strategies for Supporting Diverse Learners in a Digital World. My name is Amanda Rothengas, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we introduce our speaker, I would like to let you know a bit more about our webinars. Both Sanford Inspire and Sanford Harmony host these webinars where thought leaders and educators share best teaching practices and tools to support social emotional learning. These presentations are the opinions and content of our guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Sanford Harmony or Sanford Inspire. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the slide deck and recording within 24 to 48 hours. Also, if you have questions for our speaker, please feel free to use your question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker. Leah Juelke is an English learner and language arts teacher at Fargo South High School. She is North Dakota's 2018 Teacher of the Year and the 2019 North Dakota Sanford Teacher Award winner, 2019 Horace Mann Teacher of Excellence awardee, and is a 2020 Global Teacher Prize Top 50 finalist. Wow. She teaches immigrant and refugee high school students, incorporating personal learning strategies, projects, and team-based exercises to advance her students through 4 levels of English and transfer them to mainstream classrooms. She has produced the Journey to America book series for 6 years, featuring refugee and immigrant stories, poems, and artwork. In addition, her students produce a volume of Green Card Youth Voices, Immigrant Stories from a Fargo High School. Leah served in the military as a medic and continues to give back to her community as a debate and student Congress coach, as well as a volunteer for her community garden. Most recently, she has learned to maximize digital tools for distance learning for her high school students. Today, she will share many of the strategies that have supported all her students in this new learning environment. Thank you, Leah, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to National University, Sanford Inspire, and Sanford Harmony, and Amanda, and everybody who organized this. This is just amazing to be able to connect with teachers from all over. So I wanted to start today a little bit talking about my journey and how I became a teacher. And mine is a little unique in the fact that I actually went to college for nursing. And so my second year of college, I joined the Army National Guard and became a medic. And when we got called up to go overseas, the mission was that they weren't going to take females. So I was pretty bummed, but I stayed back in my unit and I trained up all the newcomers that came, all the trainees, all the new guys that came on in. And I started to really enjoy the training aspect and the teaching of the Army. And I had volunteered for summer school for the EL program here as a para in my community. And I just really started thinking that teaching was for me. And so I switched my major from nursing to teaching, and here I am today. And this is a little surprise to my mother because she was an art teacher most of my life, and she always said that I was going to be a teacher, and I was dead set against it. But here I am, and I absolutely love what I do. So to learn a little bit more about my students and kind of the environment that I'm teaching in, I'm going to give you some information about them. So first of all, I have taught in different countries. I taught in a boarding school in Taiwan, a private school in Ecuador, and a charter school in Colorado. And so I've taught all different groups of students in different capacities. And currently I'm at a public school in Fargo, North Dakota. This is actually where I was born and raised before I went and traveled and visited 27 different countries. My high school is 1,000 students, and it's a traditional public high school. We have 40% free and reduced lunch. 12% of those students in the high school are EL students, and our population is unique in the fact that they come from 20 different countries. A lot of people think that EL students are simply students who speak Spanish, which is a large part of the population. But our city is a resettlement city here in Fargo, North Dakota. And so in that respect, we have very few students who speak Spanish, and Spanish is actually my second language. And so I get excited when I have a student who speaks Spanish so that I can actually practice my Spanish with them. But our students come from Nepal, Congo, Liberia, Kenya, and on and on and on. Lots of different countries. 90% of them are refugees that are coming from refugee camps, and the other 10% are immigrants. Out of my EL population, 20% of those actually have special needs in the case of needing an IEP. And one of the struggles is that they don't always get identified because they come here when they are 14, 15, 16, and in their country they either didn't go to school or they didn't have such programs. So it is quite a diverse population. It is a public high school, and we use a sheltered instruction model. And this is very interesting. I don't pull kids out of classes. We actually have 6 EL teachers in our school, 2 English, 2 math, 1 science, and 1 social studies. And what we do is we have a core content area. The students test into our program when they come, and depending on their level of English, they get put in certain classes. So we have EL biology, EL social studies, EL language arts. And so they take their core classes with highly qualified EL teachers, and they get the content with the science, math, and social studies as the other students in the high school would. But the content is given to them in a differentiated method at their level so that they're able to access the material easily with limited English. And then the intro curriculum for the lowest students actually has a infusion of language within science and math and social studies. So they're learning let's say pronouns in English, but they're also learning them in science, math, and social studies. When the students take their extra classes, such as gym, sewing, health, all of those classes that they want to take as extra electives, they actually are mixed in with the general population of the traditional high school. So it's a very unique program of what I teach. So I'll teach a class full of 20 students, and we'll be hired, let's say it's an English 4, and we'll be learning Romeo and Juliet with 20 students from each from different countries. None of them would have probably been born in the US. So now that you kind of understand my classroom and my structure, it'll help set up the idea of what I'm going to talk to you today about. But I want to hear about what grade do you teach? So go ahead and answer the poll on your screen. Poll number 1 is, what grade do you teach? And I'll give you just a minute here to go ahead and answer that. I'd love to hear about what kind of classrooms you are coming from.
Okay, Leah, looks like about 75% have responded, and some have responded in the chat box as well. Do you want to share out the results?
Yeah, so it looks like 54% of our participants today are pre-K/elementary, 11% middle school, 7% high school, 8% after school, and 19% are out of the classroom. So that is great. I love the different mix of educators we have with us today. I am specifically at the moment teaching 14 to 21-year-olds in a high school setting. But in my life, I've taught K through 12. And so a lot of the strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you towards the end and within this structure can be adapted to absolutely any grade. And I have a 3rd grade daughter myself that I am definitely keeping up with her online studies here. And I have some really good resources for that elementary age as well. So it's great to see a mix of educators today. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share with you a glimpse into my classroom. This video was created by the NEA Foundation, and I'm just going to share this. If you have audio issues, go ahead and like I mentioned, log in and log out and log back in. And this is also going to be available on YouTube if you, for some reason, were not able to see that today. So here we go. We're going to see a glimpse into my classroom. So that was just a little glimpse into my classroom and my amazing students. And so really to help create an environment that I am able to do projects like that, I really focus on three main strategies to teaching my diverse learners. Empathy is coupled with connections, making those connections with the students, engagement, and empowerment. Those are the three pillars that I really focus on when I am thinking of how to reach my students, being from all different backgrounds, all different levels of education, and different abilities. And so using the empathy, engagement, and empowerment, I have been successful in being able to lift and empower my students to share their stories through different types of projects, which you see here. The Journey to America project, which was addressed in the video, and we go to NDSU and Concordia and other universities around the community. We also go to nursing homes and other high schools, and the students share their stories. And it not only helps, they write the story with their writing, their grammar, but giving them that voice and having them practice their public speaking. Now, this is with the higher level EL students. And so they've had practice over the years, at least 2-3 years of practicing their English or even more, depending on their level. And so our Green Card Youth Voices project was in 2017, and I would recommend you check out Green Card Voices. They are a nonprofit who aims to tell stories of all different types of immigrants and refugees. They have actually an adult version of entrepreneurs. They have one from Minneapolis, Atlanta. I believe they're doing a New York one. And so the person who founded this organization, Taya Roseman Clark, is an immigrant herself from Slovenia. And I contacted her, and they featured our students in our very own book, along with online interviews that you can use as a curriculum with your students and share those. And it's appropriate for elementary students, middle school and high school, and colleges around here actually use it within their curriculum to teach with their equity and diversity classes. And then I've actually had those college students come into my classroom, and they volunteer with my students as they're writing their Journey to America process. So the other one we're doing is a brand new project called We Are America. It's with Jessica Linder from Massachusetts. She's a journalist and an EL teacher. And so we are featuring a different type of group, a mix of all levels of my EL students. And in this project, it's not necessarily about how they came to the US, but more so just about their challenges of just being a youth in today's America. Narrative 4 project is a great project that you can check out from the link. This is another storytelling project of which I have become a facilitator. And NPR podcasts are amazing for all levels. You have elementary students, you have high school students. Currently, I believe there's a podcast challenge right now that your students can enter. And I think they actually extended the deadline for the contest until May. So I know a couple of my students are entering those just to help empower those students with their stories. Now, strategies for supporting diverse learners, one of the most important ones is self-care. And right now with everything happening, you've probably heard a lot about this, but going about your daily work as a teacher, teaching online or distance learning is very, very hard to think about yourself when you're worried about all of your students and what they're doing at home and what they're experiencing. But it is very important to take a step back and to really set limits with your work. I need to tell myself this because I actually found myself online last night at like 10 o'clock, worried about a student turning something in and trying to email back and forth and thinking, wow, it's 10 o'clock at night and I probably should just wait till morning. But I really wanted to make sure that student got the information, and it's hard. I mean, I preach this, but I have to also tell myself to practice this. Calming your mind, laughing, honestly, in this day and age of what's going on, I mean, we need some relief. We need some comic relief. And I find that in TV shows that I love to watch, different types of online funny videos. Recently, I'll talk a little bit about how I got into TikTok, and I know what you're thinking. I thought TikTok was just for 12-year-olds and they just dance, or teenagers. I don't want to see that. But I was persuaded by a teacher friend to join TikTok, and I actually could set who I follow, teachers and moms over 30, And this was so fun because it's just a lot of parodies and kind of like taking light of what's happening right now in your life. And we really need to laugh. I mean, we just have to have that self-care and be very kind to ourselves. The other thing that's really important to set yourself up to teach a diverse population is to have your own diverse professional learning community. So within your school is a start, but you need to reach beyond your school. You need to don't be afraid to reach out to educators on Twitter, on Facebook, be a part of organizations like the National Geographic. I just recently got my certification as a certified educator, which helped me connect with educators around the world. And we have been chatting about different projects that we could do. The other organizations you can see on the screen that I'm a part of have really opened up my eyes. And when I am able to learn from an educator who's doing something completely different than I am, I take bits and pieces of that and their perception, and that helps make me a way better teacher. I was able to connect with a educator from India through the Global Teacher Prize, and he actually was our guest last week in my Partnership for New Americans class. We were doing a career unit, and we interviewed him about his job as a teacher and how he literally started a school from like 4 students, and he's grown it to over 100. We also had a healthcare professional from Zambia join us on our Zoom, and being able to have these people from around the world join your students and just be able to teach them is amazing. But I would not have been able to do that without the connections that I've made through these organizations. Sometimes even on Twitter, I see someone post something that sounds amazing. I contact that teacher on Twitter and I say, hey, I would love to learn more. And then I grow my professional learning network. And it's really important that it's diverse as well, because diverse with the skills, with the regions, with just everything they're doing. Connecting with professionals who are not necessarily the same age group that you teach, because you can learn a lot from them of what they're doing and adapt it to the grade and age that you're working with. So let's move on to poll number 2. Now, I'm interested in learning, what is your method of instruction currently? Everybody around the US is at a completely different place, it feels like. So I'm interested about what kind of learning are your students doing right now and how are they doing it? So when we look at synchronous, you see that's an option. That means, are you doing Zooms, Google Meets, where you are live? Asynchronous would be work that you post at Google Classroom, or you're posting it somewhere and students are completing an assignment online, but not like in live time. And then both, some people use a combination of both. Paper packets, maybe paper packets have been picked up or delivered to students and they're not using any type of technology to contact their teachers. And then there's other, you could use your share box, your question box, and explain some other types of learning that is happening as well. So I'll give you a minute to go ahead and get those votes in.
All right, it looks like we have about 70% that have had a chance to respond, or they respond in the chat box, and many are saying that they are doing multiple modalities for digital learning. But if you want to share the results from the poll.
Yeah, so it looks like we have 11% online synchronous, that's like a Zoom type of, or a Google Meet, 14% online asynchronous, 58% are doing a combination of both asynchronous and synchronous, 8% with packets, and 9% with other. And so it looks like the majority are trying to approach their online learning with both things like Google Classroom, posting things, as well as trying to meet with the students. So that looks like that. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of what I'm doing and what works with our students. So right now, like I mentioned, TikTok, and I have kind of put out a couple of the TikToks here. This is how I'm feeling. So now transitioning to this digital online learning for the last, we've been doing this for 4 weeks now in my district. I'm a single mom and I have a 2-year-old and a 8-year-old. And this has been one of the challenges by far. And I bet a lot of you can relate, even like any type of household, when you have children and you're supposed to be doing something online, they don't understand that just because you are home, like that doesn't mean you can play with them all the time. So when I'm doing my online Zoom, it is a challenge for me to keep my 2-year-old occupied and my 8-year-old as well. And so I just kind of, this little TikTok, you can find me on TikTok and check out the video, just kind of shows my daughter pops in the screen and just kind of the overwhelming amount of attention that I have to pay to each my work and my kids. It's kind of a parody. And then here on the right side, that was me my first day waiting. I got all dressed up, ready to go on my Zoom, and nobody showed up for a while. So that was fun. And the song behind it is like, I am all alone. And so that's how I felt. But luckily, once we figured out all the tech problems, my students have been able to attend our daily webinars at least 90%, 98%. I'm usually missing 1 or 2 kids, but we have had a good turnout. So this is how you got to just laugh. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a parody, a little bit of fun, and kind of just go with it. So let me talk a little bit about how I do get about 98% participation within my structure. And it really goes back to what happened before we had this pandemic. So our high school in our district, we have 23 schools within our district and 3 high schools, 2 middle schools. And what we have gone with for the secondary is this schedule you can see in front of you. The students come to your class 2 times a week. And Fridays is a PLC professional practice day where I have a lot of meetings. 1 to 2:30 is office hours where the teacher is available. They just turn on their Zoom or Google Meet and they're just there and students pop in and out. So during that time period, let's say of my class at 8:30 in the morning on Monday and Wednesdays, I turn on my Zoom. The students get a secure link through their EduCal because we use EduCal as a planner. They can't copy the link. They can't send the link to anyone. It is just in their EduCal and only they can get into their EduCal, which definitely helps with security. So from there, they pop on the Zoom and then I run classes that way. I also have asynchronous assignments, so I post things as well. And we use a lot of different mediums. But the idea of this is my school district, middle and high school students for the last 7 years have had laptops 1-to-1 and they turn them in the summer and they get them back during school. So we have been a 1-to-1 school for many years. In that respect, we also give our students free internet who are on free and reduced lunch. That has always happened. So that has really helped set up a foundation to build upon for this online learning. Without that, without laptops, without internet access, this around the nation, teachers are finding that clearly it is difficult to do something like this online. So at the moment, anyone in our district can actually get free internet if they have a K-12 student, because we have partnered with a local internet company and they have set up until we finish in June, free internet for those families. And they were very quick and fast at installing that internet for a family. And then lunch is actually being given out every day to students. They can stop at a site in the community and pick up a free lunch. And so those are some things that are happening right now within my district. And this helps me be a more successful educator because of the technology that was already being implemented within my school. Now, this is not true across the nation. Not everyone has this. And there's also an issue when you look at elementary school. So our elementary school kids do not get tablets. They do not get laptops. So what they had to do is they had to set up a site to distribute tablets and laptops to families. If a high school student was in the family with an elementary, they are asking them to share, which is hard when you have a high school student want to share their computer, but they're trying to make it work in that respect with tablets and devices. So that is how our district is going about teaching online currently. Now, this brings up a lot of issues about equity. And so when you think about grading and think about expecting students to be online and connections, you really have to give them some grace and really look at the systems. And this information is from the state of states and the Pew Research. So looking at currently 99% of schools, it says actually have internet just within their schools in their classroom every day. And so that's around the United States. Now, since 2013, the cost of internet has decreased a lot. So some of these statistics really help make internet more readily available for schools, but there's still a lot of schools in the United States that do not have internet or a steady connection to internet. And we know the connection, even when I'm at home here and I have internet connection, which is really good in the area I'm in, if my daughter logs into like Netflix or something, like my internet connection gets rough. So roughly 2/3 of rural Americans actually have internet. So the other third are possibly do not have that internet or that connection. So that creates a lot of equity issues that we have seen that have been uncovered through this type of distance learning. And districts all over the nation have been trying to brainstorm and have problem solved and have really stepped up and are able to try to figure out what works. In Arkansas, one of my friends who was teacher of the year, she's actually going on PBS on the television, and she's teaching a K through 12 curriculum. She's filmed it and they put it on the TV every day, and those kids have little paper packets. They watch the video, they turn on their TV every day at 9 or whatever it is, and they're able to do some learning through a public television station. So that was one way. Another thing that happened that I heard from some educators around the US is, maybe you guys know about this, is that they have taken school buses and parked them in some very rural areas and equipped those school buses with Wi-Fi, so that those students in that rural area for that certain time frame, maybe from like 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. maybe, can get Wi-Fi, and then they drive the bus back to where it goes, and they do it every day. So these are some ways that people and educators around the nation are being very creative in trying to get our students the education that they should be having at the moment. So in that respect, I kind of threw out some of those things that some people I knew were doing. I'm curious, what is one way that you plan, or at this point you're already doing it, support equity in your distance learning model? What are some things your district has already been doing or what they have planned to do? So go ahead and type this in your answer in the little question box there. And I'll just give you some time to do that right now.
Great, responses are starting to come in. Our district has set up buses as mobile hotspots, creating paper packets by request for families, have meetup conferences with individual students. We also handed out Chromebooks. Also, Comcast and Xfinity are providing free internet. We are applying for grants for free internet, offering computers for families, distributing food, checked out Chromebooks, checked out devices, breakfast, lunch, Chromebooks, providing links and resources, distributed laptops, paper packets. Families can park in the schools and pick up what they need. Companies are offering free internet. We also offer paper packets, very similar to what everyone's sharing, paper packets, computer distribution, free lunch, free dinner. Pretty amazing. Everybody has stepped up so quickly, but amazing, amazing support.
Yeah, and I just think that just shows the community our passion as teachers for exactly what we do. And you know, we say it a lot that the education and the teachers just don't get the, I would say, the recognition we deserve, because as a teacher, we put our whole heart and our whole self into teaching. We think about our kids when we go to bed. We call them our kids. I just said kids. We think about our students when we go to bed. We think about them all the time. And I think a lot of the community doesn't understand that passion that educators have. And I really hope one thing that comes out of this situation is that people have a greater understanding of how much the school really does provide. We are feeding these families and students through the school. This is not the government itself, or going to the grocery store and they're not giving free food, but it's the school that is organizing these food deliveries, and really making sure that our students are taken care of, checking in on their mental health. It's the teachers and educators and administrators, everybody that is doing that. And I really hope it shines a light on how much educators and teachers
Leah, we lost your sound for a minute there. Are you still with us? Hold on one second while we explore our audio issue
That
here.
means,
Oh, she's back.
oh, we good?
We,
It's
we had
okay.
lost you for a minute there.
Okay. So one of the important things to know when you're trying to create empathy with diverse learners is that you need to educate yourself with who your students are and their demographics. And so I have traveled to over 27 different countries. That has helped me become a better educator as far as my students coming from many different countries. I know what it's like to not speak the language of that country and to feel very insecure when it comes to having to do things when you're not familiar with your environment. And I think that makes me a better teacher in the respect that I can empathize with my students in some ways. My first day of class, I always make it a teamwork activity. We go outside, we do relay races, we have a little spoon with the cotton on it, we tie our legs together and they do running. And we really talk about positive attitudes and respect from day one. Like we are outside doing activities. And class leader really helps the class step up and empower them. I have a class leader. Now, this will work for elementary, middle, and high school. I've done this in at least 4 different countries as well. A student writes down on their class leader packet the objective, the activities, anyone who was absent that day. And I will always have an inspirational quote every day for the kids too. And the next day, that student goes up and they present. This is what happened yesterday. This is who was gone. It really helps. It's a 5-minute thing that really helps with you not getting bombarded with kids are like, what happened yesterday? What did we do? And so on. And it gives that student the sense of leadership and that their ownership, and they start the class. I sit back and the bell rings. Those kids start the class with the class leader. And that's a great way to start because especially diverse populations, students on IEPs, students, EL students, and gifted students, routine is so important for many students, and consistency, having that consistent every day class leader goes up, they know how it's going to start, is very important for diverse learners. I attend cultural events, I do conferences and home visits with translators, being that I'm also a case manager of my students. We try to send notes home that are translated. We have snack stations, so I got a grant where I was able to provide granola bars and such because high school kids get very hungry. Mindfulness at the beginning of every class after class leader. I also do a mindfulness activity, whether it's meditation or another mindfulness, and the kids absolutely love it. It's another part of their routine. And my classroom is completely open door. So I invite university students to come in and help with my writing projects. We go on field trips. I partner with the elementary school and my students present at the elementary school. And the one thing that I really want to touch on quick is a partnership class. Now I could do a whole nother session on a partnership class, but this is really important if you can in your school have a class that your new American students, and they also have one where at the other school where they have students who have special needs as well, partner with students who are born in the US and become mentors. So together throughout the year, they go through different activities. They work with traditions, culture, norms. They teach each other technology. And so you're really having a partnership type of class in a mentor way. So the next thing is looking at how do I take all of those things that I have done and translate it into the online classroom. So first of all, I had to educate myself and learn a lot about online teaching and different programs. I call, message, and email my students. I feel like it's daily, and I'm sure you do too. One thing that I have learned is Google Classroom, or Google Voice, I shall say. Google Voice will take a phone number and it will turn it into a phone number that you are able to use that disguises your actual phone number. Now, this is really good in the fact that, having a little privacy, you don't want your students to have your own personal phone number. I would do most of my calling from the school, and now I can't do that. So I I use a Google Voice number. So another thing is we send letters and packets in the mail, pass out lunches. We talked about that. I've seen parades of teachers going. I have not done this yet, but parades of teachers going and visiting their students. Um, encourage family time and self-care is so important. And then I have 2 links in there. One is a check-in to ask your students how they're feeling during this time. That is so important, along with a survey. You could give it to parents, you could give it to students that are older, just like, how do you feel? I mean, are you happy right now? Just kind of checking in with them. And then my thing is, 3/4 of my student phone numbers are disconnected. I realized this when I tried to call everybody. So I went where my kids are. I have a teacher Instagram. I've had it for a while, and the content is for, of teachers. And I just recently, as I mentioned, got a TikTok. My students, I have almost every single one of my students on Instagram. And when I message them like, hey, remember this? I get almost an instant reply, or at least within the hour. Before I was emailing students, I would never get a reply. So, and I called them and the number's disconnected. In these times, you've got to go where the students go. And for me, that is these 2, Instagram and TikTok. And honestly, the communication that I'm able to quickly have with my students in that type of chat is great. Also, Remind is a wonderful app as well. So here's an example of some of the communication that I've had with my students. Just really quick check-ins at the beginning, just to remind them. They were surprised, like, wow, you don't have any homework for me? You just want to check on me? Thank you. Like, they were very gracious. I have a student teacher that just finished her student teaching, and she transitioned with me into the online learning, taught the first 2 weeks of online learning. And she was so excited. That's the kind of student teacher she was. We looked at it as a super amazing opportunity for her to learn how to do this online teaching with everyone else. And she felt she got one of the best teaching experiences ever as a student teacher. And that is actually her. Some student posted on Instagram, and it kind of looks like that little emoji is tired and yawning, but we kind of were joking about that. One of the funny messages I did get, because you'll get kids, they're just brutally honest. I messaged them and let them know, hey, we have class, just be there at 10:30 a.m. And he messaged back, I don't know if I'm gonna be awake for your meeting, but I'll give it my best shot. So, okay, thanks. I mean, we're just okay. Let's be brutally honest. I was kind of wondering, because it wasn't like it's 8, it was 10:30 in the morning, but you know, it is what it is, and I just love my students' sense of humor and that they can still joke. And he did give it his best shot and joined at least a half hour late, but he was there. So I sent out this survey to my students, and some of my responses, I just wanted to see how they were feeling after 2 weeks of online learning. And I asked, how do you feel about your online classes right now? And a lot of them just said, I don't know. Like, they were just trying to navigate the system. Only 11% said they liked it better than going to school. And then I asked them about, do they get free lunch do you go and get the lunch that they provide? And a lot of my students didn't. And that actually stems from transportation problems. They don't have a way to get there. Is your internet at home good quality right now? We had 72% say yes. And then, did you have free internet at home before March? Now, interesting, 60% of my kids did. So my EL population is an interesting mix. Not all of them actually qualify for free and reduced lunch, depending on the household. Is learning new technology easy for you? They said, yeah, pretty much yes. And this last one of, do you think Google Classroom is easy to use? I had to ask this question because I noticed I had a couple kids that weren't posting or didn't know where to find something, but we've been using this for 5 years. But 100% of them said yes, it was. So I just wanted to check on that. So what's the hardest part of online learning? These are perspectives of EL students that are grades 9 through 12. Internet connection was on top. Like, that's the hardest part, not having a reliable internet connection. The boredom of staying home is killing me. Myself being lazy. Again, we're just honest here. I mean, it's just the truth. It is families talking while I'm studying. Waking up on time is definitely something that my students have struggled with as well, being teenagers and staying up late. And then I was curious about their happiness. I don't know how they define happiness, which would be another interesting idea, but pretty much they all said that their happiness before online teaching was more than their happiness currently with online teaching, but you can see there's a lot of middle ground there as well. As a trauma-informed teacher, I also have some 4 core priorities. You can take a look back at this. I'll go through it quickly. The predictability, flexibility, connection, and empowerment. These are 4 things that are just so important to work with students. And diverse students who have different experience, often have trauma, not always, but almost every single one of my students have suffered from trauma in some way, shape, or form. And this is so important. If you're not trauma informed and you're interested in more ideas or the education on it, it is a great thing to be informed on. So how do I engage my students right now? These can actually be adapted for elementary school students depending on the level. So right now our students have just finished a cooking show that they produced. They cooked with their family, they videotaped it, and then they put the recipes on a Google Doc. And I just actually on my Twitter today, I just posted one of the videos that one of my students did. Was Jollof Rice, and she was a Liberian mentor. So it was a great project for them to share some time with their family. And an elementary student could also do this as well. We are doing Romeo and Juliet currently with one of my classes, and at the end, they've always created their own movie. But this way, as we were doing it online, I think I'm going to be giving them a little more freedom to do online cartoons as well, meaning that we can't get together and have a cast for a movie. So that's kind of an adaptation. We are learning about the global goals in persuasive essays and speeches. And one extension I just have to tell you about is called MOTE, M-O-T-E. And this is actually a new extension that you can do on Google Docs. It actually lets you leave voice messages rather than just typing it out. And then we also use Flipgrid for our speeches. Flipgrid is amazing. Interview with a family member for younger students. Why not have them interview a family member and have them ask them questions and learn about their history, or just ask them about any type of questions. This could be adapted in any way. Currently in another class I'm teaching, we're doing a career unit. And this is so fun because we have professionals from around the world joining our Zoom. And we had a healthcare professional from Zambia join, as well as a teacher from India who started his class from like 3 students, and he now has a school of over 100. And just being able to reach out to those professionals, a lot of them have some more flexibility right now with their time. Next week, we have a Hollywood cameraman coming who's done work with the TV show Glee and 911 and some other famous shows. Online pen pals is also fun to do. And just really quickly, some ways that I took from an in-class activity into an online activity. You could still have students lead online lessons, create PowerPoints. You could do a talent show on Flipgrid. My 3rd grade daughter did something like this, and she had the best time. And her teacher was able to showcase the talent of their class through a Flipgrid video. Now, primary online learning for my 3rd graders, they're in the picture with me. We created a little TikTok, a 1-minute video on rhyme that I did, and it was just fun to do with her. One person that I just admire so much is John Jurovich from Ohio. So if you're from Ohio, shout out to you. He is the Teacher of the Year for Ohio for 2018. And he is an art teacher, and he really focuses on social emotional learning. And he has these episodes with that link underneath it there you can see of drawing very simple things, but he talks about emotion and incorporating feelings into it. And my 3rd grader absolutely loves his shows. They're literally 4 or 5 minute shows. They're amazing. And then Alex Cacciatani, he is a Teacher of the Year from California, very famous. Him and Kim Thomas do the Wacky Math Hour. Now, my daughter was able to sign up for this, and every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Central, he has an hour of rapping. He's the rapping mathematician. He has different types of activities. He has magic coming in, and they do elementary math, and he really engages these students in this live Zoom webinar. It is amazing. So every Tuesday, she totally looks forward to that. She's doing her own curriculum from her classes in her school, but yet 11 o'clock on Tuesdays, we're available to participate in that online learning. And she is smiling throughout the whole thing. So I really, as an educator, what I want from these webinars is I want to know, like, what can I do? I want the resources. I want the websites. So here you can see some of the resources and ideas that I have actually tried and I've actually read through and done and myself. And I know these work well and you can adapt them to different grades. And so looking at Seesaw, if you don't use Seesaw for elementary right now, you need to. My third grade daughter uses Seesaw and I wish we could use it for high school because it lays out the assignments in such a easy way. For Khan Academy, math is what I think of math, I think of Khan Academy, but they actually have language arts, science, and some other topics on Khan Academy. And it's one of the best sources I have found for personalized learning if you're looking for enrichment, which I have to find for my daughter because she finishes all of this stuff from her school and then she's looking for more. So the other thing that I don't have on here that I just have to tell you about is called Quiz Is. It's like quiz with an I-Z-Z. I just found this, and I'm sure some of you know about it, but this is like a Kahoot type of game, but you can assign the game as a quiz to give to check learning. So right now in our Romeo and Juliet unit, I am reading with them. They actually take parts. So I have the script on the screen and I assign the parts. And just like in the classroom, we would actually dress up and we would have props, but you can't do that now. But I have them read and take turns reading. But after we do that, I want to check to see, I don't have a worksheet for them. They could just copy and paste things from things. So I want to give them a little quiz to see what they learned from the different acts that we complete. And Quiz is amazing. As a teacher, it gives me a report of what they got wrong, the percentages, and the student, and the best thing, you guys, it connects to Google Classroom. You press a button, connect it to your Google Classroom, and it downloads your students for you. So anyway, I can't talk enough about Quiz Is. It is just amazing. Check it out. And any of the other resources that I have here on this screen, I have found to be very helpful for this time of our online and distance learning. And here's some contact information that I have. If you go ahead and check out my website, you'll find 6 years worth of stories of refugee and immigrant students. They're short stories, about 2 pages, 3 pages, and you can share those to help teach your students about diversity. There's poems, lessons, and on our YouTube channel, we have uploaded our recent cooking shows, as well as some of the older Romeo and Juliet videos. And we also have our presentations from the universities that we have done with our student stories. So I would love to connect with you on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and help you with any resources that you're interested in. I'm sorry we have a limited amount of time today. I just could talk for 3 hours, honestly, as you can see, speech and debate coach over here, but I love to share with educators. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of this webinar today, and thank you to National University and Sanford Inspire and Harmony for letting educators connect in this amazing way.
Wow, Leah, thank you so much for sharing all those amazing resources. And we're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat box. We had a few questions throughout today. Could you spend a minute to talk more about how you set up the class leader? Do you have an application? How often do you change the class leader?
Yeah, so I have so the class leader is something on paper in my classroom. So we have a folder, and in the folder I run copies. There's 2 spots, one at the top, one at the bottom. So 2 days, and then on the back, there's 2 more days. So essentially it's 4 days. And I set it up with like blanks. So it says the day and then a blank and the objective was, and they fill in that. So it's a little half sheet. And what they do is they go ahead and take the folder that day. When they finish presenting the next day, they pass the folder on to the next person on the list, and I just do alphabetical. So I list the students alphabetically, their first names on the front of the room where they can see. They check to see who's the next person after them, and they pass it on to that next person. And then that next person goes ahead and starts writing down the objective and activities for that day. And then they just keep going. And they get points. They get like 10 points for that day of their class leader if they were able to fill it in correctly, give a good oral presentation, because we work on speaking orally in our class as well as, as much as anything else. So that's how I keep track of it. It's just a folder in the front of the classroom that the students pass around.
Thank you so much. There was one more question. How do you recruit the professionals from other countries?
Ooh, this is my diverse learning, professional learning community. And so being a part of the National Geographic certified education, being a part of the Global Teacher Prize, honestly, I've gone on Twitter and I have just messaged people as well. The people that I have currently are friends. I went to high school with a girl who is now working in Zambia. So really it's within my professional learning communities already. But if someone does not have a large professional learning communities, I encourage you to go on Twitter, to go on Instagram, email me. I can connect you with people from around the world. And so just starting to broaden your professional learning community. That's exactly how we're able to provide these opportunities for our students. So if you're interested in doing something with a career, email me and I will shoot you some names of some professionals that would love to help out your students.
Thank you so much. And you're getting many thank yous and so much appreciation for all the resources you shared. We will be sending out the copy of this webinar recording as well as a draft of the deck that you saw today and where all the resources are posted. So we really encourage you to share this with your community, share this with your fellow teachers, and please do reach out to Leah. You have many ways to reach out to her for additional support, but everyone is just saying thank you, Leah. Do you have any final words of encouragement for our educators out there?
Definitely give yourself some self-care over this time period, and just take a step back sometimes, because I think some of my best ideas and my best planning has come from me just turning my computer off and taking a little break, because of how passionate all of you are, and everything that we do is just completely enthralled in our teaching. I just encourage you to take a step back, take a breather. If you can go outside and just do some other things. And that's sometimes your best inspiration, is taking a step back from the computer, because you need a break. And if you are not at your best mentally and most balanced, it's going to be very hard to encourage and motivate your students. And I think, I'm just in awe of what other educators do around this United States at this moment. And like, people keep saying we're all in this together. And I honestly, when I think of that, I think of High School Musical, and that song plays in my head, and it's kind of annoying, but and another way to say it, like, we're all doing the same and we all want the same for our students, and that's just the best. And I really thank every educator around the world for doing what they're doing today, because we all know this is not easy. So just go ahead and take a little break and just be your best. This is going to be a very great learning opportunity for all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Leah, and thank you all for joining us today and taking your time out of your busy schedules to learn more about these strategies for supporting diverse learners in our new digital world. And with that, we look forward to seeing you all on our next webinar on May 21st. We will have 2 live sessions, our 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when Dorina Sackman-Ebuwa will present Emotional Intelligence and Resiliency, Teaching During COVID-19. We will hope you can all join us for this important topic for educators today. You can sign up on our website. Once this webinar comes to a close, a survey will launch on your screen. It's very short, and we would greatly appreciate your feedback. We do read your feedback and take your responses seriously. To this day, your responses have helped us build more successful webinars. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe. Have a great day.